Cacao and cocoa. Is one truly good for your heart health, or are they just two names for the same ingredient? In this video, I'll explain what sets them apart, dive into what the research says about their effects on cholesterol, and show you how to include them in your daily routine to maximize their benefits. Cacao and cocoa start from the same cacao bean, but the amount of nutrients they contain depends heavily on their processing. Cacao and cocoa can both be used to describe products that come from the Theobroma cacao bean, which is basically the seed of the cacao fruit. Typically, cacao is used to refer to the fruit and the seed, while cocoa is used to describe the products such as cocoa powder, cocoa butter, and cocoa nibs. However, there's an increasing use of the word cacao to market products that are supposedly less processed and healthier. Unfortunately, there's little regulation to control when each word can be used on labels. As such, choosing the right product can be confusing, but that's what I'll help you navigate in this video. The cacao bean contains two groups of compounds that are relevant to your heart health. The first group is called flavanthiols that I'll just call flavanols in this video. This is a family of powerful natural antioxidants that include catechin, epicatechin, and procyanidins. Flavonols are also the same antioxidants that give green tea its powerful health effects. The second beneficial compound in cacao is called theobromine, which is a mild stimulant with some interesting effects on cholesterol. The cacao bean can be processed in various ways before it becomes cocoa powder. After removing the flesh, cacao beans are typically fermented, dried, shelled, and lightly roasted. This is then roughly ground and pressed to remove the cocoa butter. The remaining cake is then finely ground again to produce the cocoa powder that we are familiar with. When cacao is processed in this manner, we generally consider this to be the more natural product that preserves most of the flavonols. This is also what marketeers try to brand as cacao products. However, most cocoa powders actually undergo an additional step called Dutch processing or alkalization. This is done primarily to reduce bitterness and improve solubility, making the cocoa powder easier to work with when producing other products like chocolate. But research also shows that this process can destroy up to 90% of the flavonols. For example, 1 gram of natural non-alkalized cacao powder contains around 34.6 milligrams of total flavonols, while the amount in heavily Dutch processed powder falls to only around 3.9 milligrams. So where do the labels cocoa and cacao fit into this picture? Cocoa is the term that's used for most products made from the cacao bean, while cacao is increasingly used by marketeers to signal a product that is minimally processed. However, there are no regulations enforcing this. So the only reliable signal is the ingredients list and what else is stated on the packaging. If a product is not Dutch processed, the maker would probably want you to know this and would clearly state not processed with alkali or not Dutch processed somewhere on the packaging. This would indicate that the flavanol content is largely preserved. However, if those words are absent, chances are the product has been Dutch processed and has reduced amounts of flavanols. So does this difference in flavanols actually matter for your cholesterol? Before I get into that, help me hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons and turn on the notifications. And if you found this useful, check out this other video where I do a deep dive into isoflavones, another family of powerful antioxidants found in soy foods. Dark chocolate is marketed as a way to get a boost of heart-healthy antioxidants, but let's look at what the research actually shows for your cholesterol. This meta-analysis pulled data from 10 randomized controlled trials and found that dark chocolate and other cocoa products reduce LDL cholesterol by an average of 5.9 milligrams per deciliter. However, when the researchers ran the same analysis on a subset of 5 higher quality studies, the LDL lowering effect was no longer significant. This finding was echoed by 2 other meta-analyses that also looked at the effects of cocoa intake on various markers of heart health, and both studies found no evidence of beneficial effects for LDL cholesterol. But before you write off dark chocolate as being just marketing, let's look at where the heart health evidence does hold up. This meta-analysis of 42 studies found that cocoa products high in flavanols significantly improve flow-mediated dilation, or FMD, which is a measure of how well your blood vessels function. Intake of cocoa products was shown to improve long-term FMD by 1.34%. Since average FMD in healthy individuals ranges from 6 to 7%, an increase of 1.34% is a very meaningful effect. This other meta-analysis of 19 studies found that cocoa intake consistently improved various measures of insulin sensitivity, including HOMA-IR, which is a way of measuring insulin resistance. HOMA-IR was reduced by 0.93, and since values above 2 would indicate insulin resistance, the result is again clinically meaningful. These outcomes were confirmed by a much larger meta-analysis of 157 studies that looked specifically at the effects of flavonols. Remember, these are the active compounds in cacao. Using only results from higher quality studies, flavonols increased long-term FMD by 1.14% and decreased HOMA-IR by 0.18. Unfortunately, there was again no significant effect on LDL cholesterol. All these results show that the flavonols in cacao have consistent and significant benefits when it comes to improving blood vessel function and insulin sensitivity, both of which are factors that are important in long-term heart health. However, why was the benefit on LDL cholesterol so fleeting? There could be various reasons, first of which is the difficulty of having a proper control group who could clearly see the dark and white chocolates they might be eating. Secondly, the other important compound in cacao called theobromine has been shown in this well-designed randomized trial to lower LDL cholesterol by 7 mg per deciliter after 4 weeks. As such, there's a possibility that the LDL lowering effects shown in some studies were due to theobromine, but because its amounts in the studies were not properly measured, it ended up in the mixed results seen. So, what's the overall picture? Flavonols in cacao products are genuinely beneficial for your blood vessels and your insulin sensitivity, but for LDL cholesterol, the evidence might be weaker than what headlines suggest, but it's worth keeping an eye on theobromine. Before I share some practical tips on how to get the most out of cacao and cocoa for your heart health, if you know someone who's been eating dark chocolate thinking it will lower their cholesterol, share this video with them. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. If you are using cacao or cocoa for your heart health, how you use them is just as important as which one you choose. Here are 5 practical tips. Number 1, read the ingredients list and other descriptions on the packaging. Just a quick reminder that what we want are cocoa products that are lightly processed and high in the antioxidant flavonols. There is no regulation that controls the use of cacao for products that are high in flavonols, so look for descriptions such as not processed with alkali or not Dutch processed. If these words are absent, the flavonol content has probably been significantly reduced. As such, whether you buy something labeled cacao or cocoa is less important than what's actually in the package. Number 2, choose natural cacao powder over dark chocolate for daily use. 2 tablespoons or about 15 grams of natural non-alkalized cacao powder delivers around 520 milligrams of total flavonols for only around 60 calories. To get a comparable dose from a 70% dark chocolate bar, you need between 50 to 100 grams, which translates to a substantial 275 to 550 calories, plus a significant amount of saturated fat. Number 3, pair cacao with foods from the portfolio diet. I've helped many clients significantly lower their cholesterol with the portfolio diet, and natural cacao powder could further support your blood vessel health and insulin sensitivity. Together, this will give an extra boost to your heart health. Some ideas include stacking your overnight oats that's rich in beta-glucan with cacao powder, or blending cacao powder into soy milk that's rich in isoflavones with a handful of almonds. Before I share a couple more tips, cholesterol lowering and healthy aging food strategies like these are what I help my clients with in my private practice. If you've been struggling with high cholesterol and would like more personalized help to improve your heart health, click on the link in the description to book a free strategy session. Number 4, be realistic about what dark chocolate can and can't do for your heart. Chocolates with non-alkalized cacao are not readily available, but if you enjoy it, choose a chocolate with at least 70% cocoa content. Remember our compared to what philosophy? Chocolate with regular cocoa will still contain some antioxidants, and a small serve of 1 to 2 squares a day is still a smarter choice compared to an ultra-processed biscuit or pastry. Number 5, think of the total amount of flavonols you obtain in a day as a combination goal and not a cacao-only target. It's recommended to obtain 400 to 600 milligrams per day of flavonols, and besides cacao, green tea is one of the most concentrated sources of flavonols. So 1 tablespoon of natural cacao powder in the morning plus 1 to 2 cups of green tea across the day would put you comfortably in that range. Did anything in this video surprise you about cacao and cocoa? Let me know in the comments. In the meantime, check out these other videos for more practical food strategies to lower your cholesterol and reduce your risk of heart disease. See you in the next one.